fine evening to spend the night with Mr. Norman Jordan here, visiting us from his home state of West Virginia. Hampstead, West Virginia. We got at least one West Virginian in here. So, yeah, Mr. Jordan is a member of the Appalachian Poets. It's a group of poets of color from the Appalachian region with a connection to the Appalachian region. He's also been involved in the Black Arts movement in the 60s and the 70s in Cleveland, Ohio, and was a writer-in-residence in the Caramu Theater, America's first African-American theater. Has primarily written poetry, but has also written some plays. He's got 5-6 collections of poetry and been published numerously, widely, internationally, in anthologies and journals and magazines. It was published by Langston Hughes in the 60s. And we have this book somewhere around here. And this book here I just got today, The Poetry of the Negro, 1746 to 1970, edited by Langston Hughes and Audubon Temps. So he is featured in many wonderful anthologies and has many wonderful poetry collections and plays, and has been in the movies, and we'll watch a short movie that was made about Mr. Jordan in the 70s. I'm just so happy to have been able to bring him here. He's spoke with my class this morning. Several of my students who are getting A's are here. We had a great time. We did a little bit of a playwriting workshop, which was a surprise and a lot of fun. And let's put our hands together for Mr. Norman Jordan. Okay. We're so lucky to have Mr. Jordan here, Mr. Norman Jordan, aka Peter Jesus. So I will turn it over to you to blow our minds.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I've been upstage here. I'm gonna read some of those poems, but it's been quite a while since I've seen this video, so I didn't realize some of the poems was in it. Well, it's indeed a pleasure to be here with you this evening. And of course, for that honor, I'd like to thank Professor Forrest Yerman and Appalachian State University, Delta Library, the English Department, Multicultural Department, and see, I've got myself in the trap here now. I'm going to need someone out. But to the other departments and individuals and groups that made it possible for me to be here today. Had a wonderful time this morning with the your students over at the Appalachian Center, Department Center. So what I'll do then, can you hear me in the back? Okay, I see I was supposed to put this mic on, but if you can hear me okay, I'll go without it. Okay. I read some poetry this morning that I'm going to read this evening, but to make it a little different, I brought along a few of the publications that the poems are in to let you know that, you know, what I did is, what I say and do is real. I was going to read one set up at a college. They had a program, and this English professor asked me to read on it. And as I was getting ready to read, the president of the school came in, and one of the English teachers, and they had a security guard with them. He said, we take pleasure in, the president said, we take pleasurism very serious here. And we think you're impersonating Norman Jordan. He said, Norman Jordan been published in about 30-some anthologies and publications, and we want you to identify yourself to make sure you're who you are. So I had to pull out my papers and show them. So that's why I brought these books along this evening. As I read them, I was going to show you that they really exist. I am in these books. And the first three poems I want to read are publications from Appalachian. I'm an Appalachian. I was born in Ansted, West Virginia. And I've been published in a few publications in Appalachian. And the first poem I'm going to read is from Appalachian Heritage. We talked about George Basil today. Appalachian Ghosts. Well, one thing, some of the poems that was in the video, well, I can't say that because when a woman gets blue within that, I was going to say they're older poems. But as I say, a poem never gets old, really, some poems. And the poem I have in here is called Appalachian Ghosts. Appalachian Ghosts. As a boy, I remember men coming up the mountain from working in the hawk's nest tunnel, covered with white silicon dust, and men going down the mountain from working in the coal mines, covered with black amorphous carbon dust, all of them carrying in their lungs industrial diseases, slowly and painfully killing them and their dreams. It's called Appalachian Ghosts. Next poem we're going to read is from the Journal of Appalachian Arts and Culture, prof. This is a publication that's published by the Appalachian poets, and they're mostly out of Kentucky, but they are represented by the 14 states that's in the region called Appalachian. This poem we're going to read is called One-Eyed Critics. 3:30 in the morning, with not a soul in sight, we sat 4 deep at the traffic light, talking about how dumb and brainwashed some of our brothers and sisters are, while we wait for a green light to tell us when to go. I have to be careful what you say. Okay, that's from the Appalachian poets. What I try to do for us is to have some from Appalachian, the Appalachian poets, and West Virginia. And the book that's going to read from West Virginia is called Wild Sweet Notes. Are any of you familiar with that? It's an anthology of poets from West Virginia, and I forget the number of poets there is, but it's probably the most visible anthology of West Virginia poets recently. There was a book before this called Venue, and I was fortunate enough to have a poem in that also. And the reason I want to show you these publications from Appalachia is for a while when my family worked in the coal mines. My dad worked in the coal mines, and we moved from West Virginia to Ohio in the early 50s when the mines became mechanized and they began to lay off people. And some people at that time, when I began to write, they say, yeah, but you're not writing about Appalachia. You know, you're writing about southern cities. So I was glad to be in this publication to sort of put me in Appalachia. Okay. Poem I want to read, and this is called How to Sprout a Poem. I've been writing poetry, as you can see, And often people ask me, how you write a poem? How you know, of course we know you can't teach anyone to write a poem. You can't give them techniques and models. But anyway, after being asked this question so many times, I decided to write a poem to tell how you write a poem. And I call How to Sprout a Poem. First, place about 7 tablespoons of words in a gallon jar. Cover the words with liquid ideas and let soak overnight. The following morning, pour off the old ideas and rinse the words with fresh thoughts. Tip the jar upside down in a corner and let it drain. Continue rinsing daily until a poem forms. Last, place the poem in the sunlight so it can take on the color of life. Does that make sense? Professor Yerman just gave me a copy of this book that I'm included in, that Mason Hughes published some of my poems in. When he first got in touch with me, I met Mason Hughes at a theater in Cleveland. And they were getting him some kind of award. And I told him that I was a poet. And he said, well, bring me some of your work. And no, he said, how can I get some of your work? I said, well, I don't live too far from here. I can go get it. So I did. I ran home and put together some poems. And when I got back, he had left. But he left word for the people there for me. If I brought the poems back, to leave them there and he'd pick them up the next morning. And a few days later, I got a letter from him. He used to write in green ink. All his correspondence was in green ink. And he told me he wanted to use about 6 of those poems in an anthology he was putting together. It's called The Poetry of the Negro. And he picked 6 poems. But when the book was published after he died in 1970, they only used 2 of my poems in it. So I had to suck it up. I didn't have anybody complaining. Here's one of the poems called Cities and Seas. And I just got this, so this is cold. Cities and Seas. Under cover of night, my thoughts disguise themselves. In the name of angel, shielded from reality, they sing songs of unknown seas. The seas are not a water, but a fire, covered with bones of dead actors. On the banks of the seas there are cities, not inhabited by people, but by tombstones. I can see one now. Here lies Glenn Betts, 1958. May he rest in peace. Last night I sat upon one engraved grave. He spoke to me. I became frightened, ran to the sea, and hid among the bones. Thus I was saved.
Read the other one.
Oh, we ended? Yeah. The other one, even though this was 1967, in all my, I've had about 4 or 5 collections of poems published. I always end the collection with this poem. It's called Ending. And as you'll see in Where Do People and Dreams Come From, one of my poems. I always ended with that poem, except the last book of poetry I put together called Sing Me Different. And because I use a different style, I couldn't include this poem. It's called Ending. What I have written, I cannot underwrite. However, I can rewrite. Thus, if I have hurt you, tell me so. If I have misrepresented something dear to you, waste not a moment correcting me. Last I said, if I have hurt you with the truth, let us both be sorry. But if I please you with the truth, say nothing to me, but thank God, for we both have been blessed. Now it's changed a little bit, and I've changed it a little bit, and some of the later books, and I read the change. Ending. I went back and changed some of my poetry because I took out of my new poetry, I've taken some of the religious stuff out, I've taken some of the politics, political stuff out, and I write without those thought questions. Ending. What I have written, I cannot underwrite. However, I can rewrite. If I have misrepresented something dear to thee, waste not a moment correcting me. But if my words and rhymes have pleased your mind, say nothing to me, I request. For we both have been blessed. See the difference? And you see the difference in me too. In I think it was 1970, we put together that. It was English professor from Case Western Reserve approached me about doing this film, and I was completely different than her. But it works, Brian. I told the students this morning, I was included in this book, and my wife here with Dr. Jordan was teaching at Lane College, so I started. I did some substitute teaching to fill up my days, and I went into, the assignment in different schools, I go to different schools, different classes. But this one day I went to this fourth grade, I was assigned to a fourth grade teaching assignment. And I saw the students coming in and they had this book. I said, the book looks familiar to me. And when they left out, I had a free period. I went and got it and I looked at it, and sure enough, it had one of my poems in it. And when one of the teachers came back, I said, the students got this book. And she just jumped right in and tell me, oh, that's a great book. We've been using it for 4 or 5 years. And she said, as a matter of fact, every fourth grader in the state of Tennessee has this book as a textbook. It's about Macmillan McGraw-Hill. And I said, well, I got a poem in that book. She said, I don't believe it. Get out of here. So I showed her, showed her the poem and showed her my identity. Let me show you a nice illustration. Anyway, what I tried to do with this poem is come through the poem and touch the reader. This supposes me here, and this is the reader here, and this is some of the contents of the poem. It was also published by another textbook too, and they got a similar illustration. They said one of the levels that a lot of poets, writers don't reach when they become, your work is included in a textbook. And I'm fortunate I've had 6 poems in textbooks. So, but anyway, I'm going to read this poem. And I wish I had put it on the screen so you could see it and read along with me. Because when I finish, you'll see that you really have to have this poem in your hand to get its significance. Because what I try to do is come through the poem and touch the reader. Also, I said when I wrote this poem, I was writing the poem every day during a particular month. Well, actually during my birth sign. I'm a Leo, so I was writing a poem every day during the cycle of Leo. And at first I was given the poem, I think Leo starts about August the 23rd, July the 23rd to August 23rd. So anyway, by the time I got to August 8th, I ran out of titles. So I just called it August 8th. August 8th. There is no break between yesterday and today. Mother and son, earth and earth, all are part of the other. Like with this typewriter, I am connected with these words, and these words with this paper, and this paper with you. Now, did you see me with the typewriter in the movie? Even a pencil, those things are obsolete now. You can't find a typewriter today. All right, we'll read a poem from, I put together a collection of poems that I call stick poetry. And this is a new form that I say I invented it. It could be somebody out there did it before. But I've read books and books and books, and I haven't seen anybody do this style before. So I call it stick poetry, because the poems come down the center of the stage, down the center of the page. And I think you can get to the poem quicker that way. Because when you read to the right and then go back over to the left and come back again, there's a short disconnect. But with stick poetry, you don't disconnect, you just read it straight down. Bam, you're there. And here's one of the poems I wrote called Winter in Atlanta. With time and space in their hip pocket, the poet hops and skips to the edge of God's eye and pees on last year's dead flowers. Here's another about poetry. Why do poets write a lot about poems and poetry? I try not to do it, but it comes and you have to. This poem's called Obedience. A poem came out of my fingertips today. It came on its own, nothing I had to say. All it asked of me was paper and pen, and enough space from the world to let it in. I was hoping it would be free verse, but its choice was rhyme. I had to write it as it came because it was not mine. Now it's printed on paper for eyes to see. Think of it what you will, but please don't praise or blame me. Next poem's called, wait a minute, I read that before. The next poem's called Dancing Sisters, and it's also in stick form. Dancing Sisters. Priscilla and Lois dancing to old-time music, moving, laughing, giggling, reliving the best of the old days, embodying the best of the old ways, being teenagers again. Here's one I bet most of you can identify with, called I Was Cool. I was cool. I was hip, right down to my fingertips. Then I fell in love. It's called.
I don't get it. We'll come to you later.
This is called a Go Green Flash Dream. How many of you use plastic bottles for drinking? Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah, well, we don't want to admit it because we know plastic is a bad thing. We do. Yeah. Anyway, this is a Go Green Flash Dream. Uncapped, empty, watertight jugs. Set free, lingering droplets. Rescue clouds from bottles. You know, when you drink out of bottles, there's always a little few droplets left in. Well, I think if you take the cap off the bottle before you throw it away, then those drops of water can evaporate back into the atmosphere. So it'll rescue the clouds when you take the caps off the bottle. So I'd like for all of you from now on, take the cap off the plastic bottle before you throw it away. For a lot of reasons, also for contact. Okay, I'm going to read one more. And, at the time. Okay.
Yeah, we got plenty of time, so you keep going. As long as you want to.
Okay.
Tell it.
Norman, are you planning to talk about the Park Service project where you focused on that aspect of Appalachian?
Oh yeah, because it really connects with here. I was the National Park Service commissioned me and another company to do a study of African Americans who had lived in the area that's now National Park for the New River. It's down by the New River Gorge Bridge. And there was a lot of African Americans living in the area before it became National Park Service. So they commissioned us to go and research some of those communities and do some oral interviews. And we put together a book. I wish I had got it in the car. A book about 500-some pages. And we divided it down into chapters, 7 chapters. And to make it a little more, than just regular history, they asked me to write a poem for each one of the chapters. So I did. I wrote a poem for each chapter. And started off with a poem about the New River, which runs, the New River run through here, comes back. And but I didn't bring the book. I don't have any.
You didn't bring any of those poems?
Huh?
You didn't bring any of those poems with you?
I don't think so.
We have it here in the library.
Huh?
We have it up on the fourth floor.
Yeah. I got it in the trunk of my car.
It's all over the place.
Yeah. All right, I'll read. I've been publishing about at least 40 anthologies. Mostly, they published mostly during the Black Ops movement. I was having to come along during that time. I was writing before the Black Ops movement. The Black Ops movement is era that was, well, the Black Ops movement was a sister to the Civil Rights Movement. It was the culture part of the Civil Rights Movement. And during that time, I was publishing a lot of different anthologies. A lot of anthologies came out of that era, like the Black Ops Movement. The Black Ops Movement basically goes from 1965 to 1972. And during that time, there was a lot of outpouring of poets and singers and dancers and musicians. And those artists are called artists of the Black Ops Movement. And this is a book that was published during that time. It's called Long Memories, Black Experience in America, by Mary Frances Berry and John W. Blessingame. Some of you historians know who John Blessingame was. He wrote the book called Slave Community, and he wrote about research that wrote about the slave community. But anyway, my poems are in a lot of those books, and this is one that also started off a chapter in it called Black and the Politics of Redemption. This poem is in this movie, in this film. I just realized that. We worship different heroes now since we stopped. We worship different heroes now. We stopped bowing to Uncle Tom baseball players and phony politicians who drive long, shiny cars and attend $25 plate luncheons for the United Appeal. We now listen to our bushy-head brothers standing on the corner, rapping out the side of his mouth about the man. We worship different heroes now since we stopped reading the newspapers. And remember that when they read that poem, that picture of Jesse Jackson, a young Jesse Jackson. It's amazing how things come back around. Okay, I'm going to read one more and then won't have any questions. If anybody have any questions. And also, the later we got some copies of my book, so I'll have to throw that in. Where the people in dreams come from. Anybody know where people in dreams come from? You ever wonder about those people that appear in your dreams? Sometimes the family members, loved ones, but sometimes complete strangers. And sometimes it be thousands of them. I had a dream not too long ago where going up this mountain, just thousands of people going. Where did those people come from? What about this? Anyway, I thought it was a good title for a book. Okay, the last poem I'm going to read is called Hometown Boy. Now, the women all like him. The men call him Chicago Joe. And he's got a strange way of laugh that makes him a friend wherever he goes. Well, he's not from the windy city, Chicago, as any fool can see. He's a knockdown Dragonite lover, I believe, from Tennessee. Hometown boy, go back from where you came, because I haven't seen my baby since you got off that train. Now, when he comes to a set, he always comes alone. And if he knows anything about etiquette, he leaves it at home. Well, he hasn't got fine clothes or a long Cadillac car. And when it comes to talking, his vocabulary don't extend too far. Oh, but he can make a city woman want him until she cries, please don't. That's when he lets out a country holler, baby, any way you want. Hometown boy, go back from where you came, because I haven't seen my baby since you got off that train. Well, he says he ain't got much schooling, and that he was born to be poor, but he knows just enough about everything to get him in any door. He uses old-time psychology that makes old and young agree, and the way he takes life easy brings out the jealousy in me. Okay, now I want you all to join with me. Hometown boy,
Hometown boy,
go back from where you came,
go back from where you came,
because I haven't seen my baby
I haven't seen my baby
since you got off that train. Okay.
All right. Okay, thanks so much, Mr. Jordan. Thank y'all for coming, and we'll do some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll do. I got all carried away with myself there. So yeah,
Big tough.
entertain Mr. Jordan with some questions, anything at all.
Drink
Comments?
coffee? Drink coffee?
Tea.
Right back.
All right.
He's a town clown.
Okay. Like couple times. Yes, sir.
In one of the first poems you read, you mentioned hawk's nest,
Yeah.
and I was wondering if you used hawk's nest in any of your other work.
I can't remember. I may have. Are you all familiar with the hawk's nest tone? Okay. The hawk's nest tone is a tone they built on the New River down in Fayette County, West Virginia. And as they were building this tone, they ran across silicon. And it was, matter of fact, it's where the Chemical Valley really started in the Charleston area. But it was very dangerous. Men who went into work was like weaving glass. And most of them only last a couple of months or so. So it's considered the worst industrial accident in the United States. Anywhere from, according on who's getting the quote, anywhere from 400 men to 1,000 people died in the building of that tunnel. And it's still a quiet story in American history. Because most of the workers were migrants from the South. Black, they used most African Americans in there. And they sent them into that tunnel to dig out that tunnel, knowing that it was killing the men. The administrators and some of the supervisors would come up and go in the mine. They would put on masks, and then they would use wet hose to wet down the dust. And as soon as they left, they would send the men back in there with no mask and no water to run down. So they was in there breathing that dust. So some people say it was the worst industrial accident. Some people say it was murder, because those people knew that they would send those men in there to work. They sent them to that death. It was carbide, Union carbide. Is that what you want?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
It's not really a question, but a comment or an observation. One of the poems that was read in the film, I can't read the entire poem, but it referenced sort of using blacks as, I guess, newspaper fodder, as headlines and statistics. And just thinking about it, it's really relevant considering what's been going on in the U.S. In recent weeks.
Right. The poem I read, Nellie Reed.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. It's amazing, how history keeps coming around. How relevant things back in you go back in the 20s and find stuff that's still going on right today. And even though, people are aware of it, it's still.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah. It's a good observation, good say.
Do people ask you if you're from West Africa or East Africa
Oh,
these days?
I tell people, I live so far up in the mountains of West Virginia that when I come out, people think I'm from another country. They say, what country are you from? I say, I'm from West Virginia. They say, is that South America or the Caribbean?
Ebola is in the news a lot.
Yeah.
It's in the black belt of West Africa, I think. You gotta have people asking you about that racial profiling in the newspaper.
Right.
It's black people that have done it.
And that goes back to your question. It was the police who was writing up about the dead body on Nellie Street. Well, that's very prevalent today. back in shots, I suppose. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious about your roles as both a poet and a playwright. Do you, what elements of your writing poetry move over into your playwriting or vice versa? How do those two things work together, or do they work together?
Yeah, they work together. That poem, When the Woman Gets Blue, that was a play that I wrote off of that poem. Was a student who read that play. And I see it was in the video. I forgot about that, but yeah, they sort of, you know, intertwine. When I first started writing, I used to write mostly songs and rhyme, you know. But later on, I started writing more free verse. And then when we moved from West Virginia, from Appalachian to the city, in Ohio, I was more introduced to former theater, with a black theater in our community. And so I started writing plays. And I wrote plays up until, I had a play called In the Last Days. It had way too many characters. I didn't know.
1,000 out of your dream.
Yeah. But anyway, they did it off Broadway, off Broadway, and they invited me to come. They paid my way to come up on the first night of the play. Well, I got there and I heard I was backstage and I heard some commotion going on out front in this New York City. Yeah. And I went out and peeked around, and what it was, the people who brought the stage material, the lumber there, were threatening to dismount the stage and take their lumber back because they hadn't got their pay. You know? And I just saw all this going on. I said, no, I'm going to get out and play writing business. Too many people involved. As a poet, when I show up, I'm there. But theater, you got your directors and producers and actors and costumers and office people. You know, it's fun working with all those people. But then when I moved back to West Virginia too, there was no theater, and the last play I did a play for at Marshall University, and after that I gave up writing plays. It just wasn't feasible. Occupation in West Virginia. Yes, sir.
How did you meet that professor at Case Western University, and how did he come to propose making a film about your work?
Okay. He's since passed. His name was Robert Ornstein. He was chairman of the English department at Case Western. And this is when the black arts movement, black poetry really hit the scene. And I was with a group called the Moon Two Poets. And we used to read different venues in Cleveland. We said we take poetry to the people because people don't come to poetry. So we'd read at coffee houses. And matter of fact, Carl Stokes was running for the mayor of Cleveland. He was the first major mayor of a large city. And we would go to his rallies and read poetry. So anyway, Dr. Ornstein approached me once after reading. He said, I'd like to do a video, a film of you and your poetry. So he approached me. He was chairman of the English department at Case Western University in Cleveland, Ohio. But it was done by they got a grant some kind of way through the support system at the school, at the university. You had a question? Did that answer your question? Yeah.
I want to know, what made you come back to West Virginia?
I always, I never did really like Cleveland, big cities. I went to the Navy and I came out from the Navy. My wife and I, we were, I guess you call back to the landers. We joined that group that came back to the city. I mean, back to the country. We moved back in 1975.
79.
79, yeah. We had lived in, at the total class of one. We had, no poets at that time were sort of radical people, of course. We formed a commune. We 15 families. We sold all our belongings and pooled all that money together. And we moved into this big house. And we did a lot of holistic lifestyle. You know, we became vegetarians and did yoga and studied astrology and all that stuff. But anyway, commune broke up over very simple things. You know, why did the women have to do all the dishwashing? Why certain people had to work and some didn't? It became sort of confusing. So we wanted to continue that lifestyle. So we thought coming back to West Virginia, we'd be able to continue sort of back to the land. I grow a garden every year. So that's sort of what brought us back. I think the times. And I love it. So glad I got to West Virginia. As opposed to Cleveland, Ohio. Yes.
What led you to decide to rewrite your poetry to remove politics and religion?
You know, you can't compete with the Bible when it comes to writing. Your verse can't be there, you know. Yeah, I still, you know, participate in religion. I go to a church. I go to a Baptist church there. I'm into politics. You know, I vote every year. I try to, you know, help out as much as I can. But I didn't think it had a place in my portrait. I would see portrait as art, and I see religion as religion, politics as politics, and other things. So I see it more as art form, you know. And I don't have anything against those, but I just don't put them in my portrait.
I just noticed in your older stuff, you used it a lot, like you said, I think you mentioned in 7, it was a spiritual, you know, reference for you, you know. So,
Right.
yeah. It's great. I love that movie. I wish we saw it in class. Was that like, so that where he was taking that, and what's funny was what reminded me is I think you were saying this morning about how you use the flowers in your garden and everything, and that's how the beginning of the movie kind of came in. You know, that's what I thought of because you said that every form of art, you know, is so different. But it was wonderful.
Yeah, that film does take me back to a long. And I forgot that I read that poem about the tree. And I stand in front of me, strong, firm, and everlasting. And, so I had come back to what I, you know, was writing about in the 70s. Didn't realize it. Yes.
Have you ever had any of your songs published or included in anthologies?
But some of my poems are sort of songs. Well, songs really, you know, most of them are poetry. Lyrics are really poetry. But I think I told you the experience where I've written a folder full of songs. And this musician told me, he played piano, he said, I want to set music to your poem. He said, told him, okay. We worked together. We worked together at a community center. We had some programs for youth there. And I gave him my folder to set music to. And that was a Friday. I came back Monday, he wasn't there. And I'd never seen him again. I got ripped off by 40, 50 songs. So I stopped writing songs. But poetry is really, it's like that. It's really, poetry is really songs. Okay. Well, I guess that's it.
Okay, well.
Give credit to Forrest. He came this summer to my home in West Virginia and interviewed me for a project he's doing with the Appalachian Forest. And as he left, he said, maybe I get you to come to in my class this fall. And I said, oh, okay. Just always small talk. But
You don't know Forrest then. We're studying small talk.
But then he started to email me and email me and snail mail me.
You wrote real letters, huh? You stamps and envelopes and everything. You can't do it.
And telephone calls. But anyway, he put a lot of work into making this happen. So I appreciate that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, so stick around. He's got some books to sell, and maybe you can sign them and shake his hand.